On paper, your strategy looks perfect. But what if that's exactly why it fails in real life? You backtested for weeks, you followed the rules, but when money is on the line, something always breaks. But it's not the system, it's you. And if you don't fix this, no strategy will ever save you. Because even the best system will fail if you are expecting perfect execution. Your backtest looks flawless, clean entries, tight stops, insane risk reward, but that's not the real world. Because in the real world, you are not perfect. Some days you are sharp, other days you are distracted, you are trading between meetings or half asleep at night. Maybe you hesitate, maybe the entry candle looks off, maybe you late by 15 seconds because your dog barked. It sounds small, but trading doesn't care. Every tiny imperfection weakens your edge. And most systems wasn't made to handle that. Think about it. In your backtest, you were a machine. No fear, no stress, no distractions. You executed perfectly because nothing was on the line. But real life trading, you are slower, you are second guessing, you rush some entries, delay others. You look at the chart and hesitate. And now the whole system falls apart because your strategy only worked as long as you were flawless. Which means it was never designed for you. It was designed for a robot you will never become. I've seen this happen with traders at every level. They build a perfect strategy, it looks amazing on paper, but when they go live, they miss trades, they force others, they mess up position sizes, and suddenly a system with 60% win rate becomes 30%. Not because the market changed, but because they weren't executing at 100% anymore. And the system gave them no slack, no buffer, no forgiveness. Here's the truth most traders ignore. Every system leaks in real life. Wi-Fi outside for 3 seconds. You get a call mid-trade. The spread spikes and stop you out. You miss the alert while making lunch. Your emotions get triggered and you skip the next trade. These are not edge-destroying mistakes. They are just reality. But if your system is so tight, so fragile, that it can't absorb them, then you never had a real edge to begin with. You had a theoretical setup with zero tolerance. And theoretical edge doesn't pay real money. So what's the fix? Build systems that allow you to be human. That still work when you are 80% focused. That let you miss one setup but still catch the next. That don't fall apart if you are 3 seconds late on the entry. Because in real trading, you don't win by being perfect. You win by being consistent despite your imperfections. And that only works if your system gives you room to breathe. But even if your strategy tolerates small mistakes, it will still fail if your rules are not 110% clear. I used to open the charts, scroll back and say, yeah, I would have taken that trade. Or, nah, this one doesn't feel clean enough. But let's be honest, that's not logic. That's just post-trade storytelling. I was bending reality to make the system look good. And in the process, I was training myself to lie. See, you might think you are being discerning, that you are applying experience. But in reality, you are just protecting your ego from losses before they even happen. Because the more flexible your system becomes, the more you can explain away every failure. And guess what? When your system only works when you are in flow state, it's not a consistent system. I worked with dozens of traders who had the same problem. They were smart, they studied, they know the charts inside and out, but they never commit to clear execution rules. So when things go wrong, they adjust, they guess, they try to feel it out, and every decision becomes a new improvisation, which means they are not trading a system anymore. They are just reacting to emotion and calling it skill. And here is the problem. If your entry rules are subjective, then your results are too, because your brain is wired to avoid pain. So the moment you are unsure, you will skip the next trade or take one that feels better. And suddenly you lost the only thing that matters, consistency. That's why every rule must be binary. Yes or no. No middle ground. No, I will decide when I get there. Because if you leave space for emotion, emotion will take control. So here is the fix. Make your system airtight. Define every trigger, every level, every filter. No guessing, no vibe. Make it so clear that a 10-year-old could follow it. That's how you remove emotion from the equation. And that's the only way to trade long term. But even if your rules are crystal clear, it won't matter if your system still needs 6 different conditions just to take one trade. You know the drill. You scroll through 3 time frames, check structure, fib levels, candle conformations, RSI divergence, EMA alignment, session timing. Everything needs to line up. But when the setup finally comes, you freeze. Your brain panics, you are unsure, you are overthinking. You either miss the trade entirely or take it with zero confidence. You build all these filters thinking more confirmation equals more accuracy. But in reality, more filters equals more decisions. More decisions equals more doubt, and more doubt equals slower execution. You don't trust your setup because you trained yourself to need 10 green lights just to act. And the moment one light turns yellow, you collapse. Because your system doesn't create clarity, it creates noise. Your brain has limited bandwidth, especially under emotional stress. Every extra filter adds more load. Every extra check slows your reaction. And when you are risking real money, those delays kill execution. And no execution equals no profit. Speed creates confidence, clarity creates speed, but complexity, it kills both. See, a good system doesn't ask for your full brain. It frees your brain. It reduces decisions. It gives you one clear signal and you either take it or you don't. No hesitation, no guesswork, no decision fatigue. Because trading under pressure isn't about IQ. It's about speed, trust, and simplicity. And if your system can't be run on autopilot, it can't scale. But even if your strategy is simple, it still needs to survive real-world execution. Day after day, week after week, with limited energy, limited focus, and growing capital. And most systems fall apart long before that. You ran the backtest, you tweaked the rules, you wanted it to work so badly, you started blending reality. That would have been a win. I probably wouldn't have taken that loss. That new candle doesn't count. You skip the choppy setups, you ignore the ugly ones, you didn't factor spread or commissions or slippage. You looked at clean charts, knowing full well life won't be that clean. But you told yourself it's fine, because you needed this to work. So be honest, how many of your wins came from hindsight? How many of your losses were raised with excuses? That's not testing. That's storytelling. You are not proving an edge. You are crafting a narrative designed to protect your ego. And the system that came out of it, it never had a real edge. It just had a good story. Listen, I done this too, especially early on. I would run backtests and skip the messy trades. I would say things like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have entered that one. Or I would have managed it better live. And magically the system looked great until I traded it live and reality hit me in the face. Because I didn't build it for truth. I built it for hope. Here is the test. If your system falls apart once you add actual spread, real broker fees, entry execution delay, and 10 to 20% human imperfection, then it never had edge to begin with. Because real edge survives noise. Real edge survives randomness. Real edge is visible even without hindsight. So stop asking, did it win in backtest? Start asking, will this system still work if I mess up one setup a week, entered 2 seconds late, paid full spread, and messed up one in every 10 trades? If not, you don't have a system that will make you money. You have a dream, and it's only a matter of time until reality exposes it. But even if your system does have edge, it still has to survive scaling. Because the more capital you manage, the more pressure you feel. And most strategies weren't built for that. You optimize for growth, highest risk reward, tight stops, big payoffs. You wanted a strategy that scales fast and prints profit. And on backtest, it did. But then you went live, and the cracks started showing. Suddenly, every loss feels like the end. Every mistrade makes you spiral. And your emotions start doing what your system was supposed to prevent. Why? Because you didn't build for real life. You built for ideal conditions. You think if the system has edge, it will work. But that's not enough. Because your system isn't just made of entries and exits. It's made of you. And you are a human. Even if the system survives a 10-trade drawdown on paper, can you? Can you take 5 losses in a row and keep executing like nothing happened? If not, it doesn't matter how profitable the strategy is, because you won't be around long enough to realize it. And this is where most traders break. Not because their system is bad, but because they weren't built into it. Here is the truth. A system that only works when everything goes right isn't a system, it's a time bomb. Real trading equals imperfect entries, missed setups, fatigue, drawdown, real pressures, and if your system can't handle that, it doesn't have an edge. It has a flaw waiting to be exposed. Because trading isn't about being perfect. It's about lasting long enough for your edge to play out. And that means lower expectations, less risk per trade, rules that protect you when emotions spike, and a structure that can take hits without falling apart. So ask yourself, is your system built to survive 100 trades with real emotions, real capital, real pressure? If not, you are not trading a strategy. You are gambling with structure. And every winning month, it's not consistency, it's luck buying you time. So now you know why your strategy works on paper but keeps failing in live trading. But even if you fix every one of these flaws and finally build a system with real edge, you will still lose money until you fix the one thing that sabotages everything, your own mind. Because strategy is only 20% of the game. The other 80% is your psychology trying to override it. So if you want to stop sabotaging your own edge and finally become the trader your system deserves, watch this next video. It breaks down the hidden mental patterns that keep you inconsistent for years, even with a profitable strategy.